Hey everyone, I am so excited to be live with you to share with you my first ever book that just released yesterday. It's called Think Like a Monk, Train Your Mind for Peace and Purpose Every Day. Now, as you come in on live, let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. And I'd love to see your questions. Keep them in the comments because my team's going to be looking through and finding some of your questions that I can answer in a few moments. So what I'm going to do for the next 5-10 minutes is share a bit about the process of writing the book, what's inside it, what you can learn from it. And then I can't wait to take a host of your questions. So start sharing your comments straight away with any questions that you have about the book, my work, my podcast videos, whatever you've been looking into. And remember, at any point, you can go to bn.com and order your copy and get one straight to you right now because the book is already out. We released it yesterday, and I deeply appreciate all your feedback, all your excitement, all your energy. It's truly been an incredible 24 hours, and I appreciate all the love I've got so far. There are so many tags of people who've already got the book. So if you haven't got it yet, you can check it out at bn.com. But yes, with this book, with Think Like a Monk, I wanted to talk about my journey. Now, I lived as a monk for 3 years. And during that time, I lived and traveled across India, Europe, and England. And in that time, I learned so many fascinating lessons, practices, tools that I believe are needed for our modern world today. So in this book, what you're going to find is the lessons I learned over 3 years and how they can be practiced by any of us in the modern world today to train our minds for peace and purpose. So if you're looking to reduce your anxiety, if you're looking to calm your mind, if you're looking to find more focus in your life, then this book is really going to help you do that. Now, I want to read a bit of it to you as well. But before I do that, I want to share with you some of the chapter titles to let you know what you're getting yourself into. So the first section of the book is called Let Go. We have chapters called Identity, Negativity, Fear, and Intention. Now, I'm guessing that for a lot of you, those are big topics. Knowing our identity is such a big part of living a meaningful life. Negativity. It goes without saying that so many of us deal with negativity, whether it's from the news, whether it's from our work environments, whether it's from even sometimes our own family and friends and people close by to us. How do you process negativity? That's what that chapter is all about. The third chapter is called Fear. And in this chapter, I talk about how you can actually get closer to your anxiety and your fear and understand it better so that you can actually overcome it. And chapter 4 in the first part is called Intention. Now, intention is such a powerful thing that we underestimate it. We think it's always about what we do. But behind what we do is our intention. It's why we do it. And that's such an important thing that's often missed. Now, what you love, if you're someone who wants to learn about mindfulness and meditation and learn more about the mind, then you'll find that in every section of the book, I have my favorite meditation practices from breath work to visualization to meditation. And if you've never done this before, the book makes it really simple to get started in a few moments. Now, section 2 of the book is a section called Grow. And this section of the book has everything from purpose to routine, the mind, and ego. So those are the chapters in the second part of the book. And purpose is probably one of my favorite chapters. It's the 5th chapter in the book. It's bang in the middle of the book. And in that, I really give you a deep equation to uncover your purpose. And this book's an experience, by the way. There are multiple sections in this book where you actually have exercises, activities, and practices that you can try out. So I'm just holding up a few for you, a few reflection exercises and sketches that are going to help you understand yourself better. So the book's truly an experience. It's not just about reading. I want you to have it and use it like a workbook. And everyone who's got it so far has been scribbling all over it, putting Post-it notes all over it. And one of the things that I'm really happy about that we did in the book was make sure that there's a lot of these try this sections where you actually get practical guidance on how to put that into practice in your real life and things that give you something tangible to do. So when you're reading the book, you'll get to put it down and be like, okay, let me test this for a bit. Let me test this for a day. And so if you're someone who really wants to get practical with training your mind for peace and purpose, then inside here are really practical strategies and tips. Now, I want you to be leaving your questions, sharing them with me right now. So if you have any questions, please, please, please do leave them with us, because I want to dive into them and I want to see what you're all thinking about, because this is my first book. I am super excited to see what you come up with. And if you're enjoying the book already, then I can't wait to answer your questions as well. So let me actually read you a part of the book. And for those of you already reading it, or if you're listening to it as well, but let me read you a part of the book that I absolutely love and would want to share with you. And let me pick where I want it to be. If you have any favorites, you can tell me in the comment section as well. If there's any parts of the book that you'd love to hear me read. But I'm going to read from, actually, I'm going to read from chapter 1. So this is reading from chapter 1 called Identity. And the chapter is called I Am What I Think I Am. And the verse that I have as the introduction is from the Bhagavad Gita. And it says, it is better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live an imitation of somebody else's life with perfection. So in 1902, the sociologist Charles Horton Cooley wrote, now wait for this, I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. Let that blow your mind for a moment. What he was saying was that our identity is wrapped up in what we think others think of us. Not only is our self-image tied up in how we think others see us, but most of our efforts at self-improvement are really just us trying to meet that imagined ideal. If we think someone we admire sees wealth as success, then we chase wealth to impress that person. If we imagine that a friend is judging our looks, we tailor our appearance in response. In West Side Story, Maria meets a boy who's into her. What's her very next song? I Feel Pretty. As of this writing, the world's only triple best actor Oscar winner is Daniel Day-Lewis, and has acted in just 6 films since 1998. He prepares for each role extensively, immersing himself completely in his character. Now I'm going to pause for a second there. You're going to find in this book that even though it's called Think Like a Monk, I share all parts of my personality. So there's lots of pop culture references, there's a ton of science, and there's a ton of great Zen stories and parables as well. So going back to Daniel Day-Lewis, I'm sure you're fans or at least know about him. So for the role of Bill the Butcher in Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York, he trained as a butcher, spoke with a thick Irish accent on and off set, and hired circus performers to teach him how to throw knives. And that's only the beginning. He wore only authentic 19th century clothing and walked around Rome in character, starting arguments and fights with strangers. Perhaps thanks to that clothing, he even caught pneumonia. Daniel Day-Lewis was employing a technique called method acting, which requires the actor to live as much like his character as possible in order to become the role he's playing. This is an incredible skill and art, but often method actors become so absorbed in their character that the role takes on a life beyond the stage or screen. I will admit, he said, that I went mad, totally mad. And years later, he said it was not so good for my physical or mental health. So that is how we get wrapped up in the different roles we play in our life. We have a role at home, we have a role at work, but this book's really about finding your true identity and living a life in alignment. So what I'd love to do now is I'd love to answer any of the questions that you have about the book, about my work, anything that you're looking, and I'm gonna dive straight in. My team's picking out questions for me, so leave them in the comments and we're gonna start taking them right now. So I have a question here from Facebook. How do you deal with bullies as an adult? Now, if this is something that you struggle with, maybe you struggle with in the workplace or family or friends, one of the best things to remember and realize is that there may be bullies in our life. There may be people who make our life difficult, but it's our choice to surround ourselves with people that uplift us and grow us. So we need to make the bullies only 25% of our life and make the positive association that we have 75% in our life. And that way we're always trading upwards. And so rather than worrying about the bullies, rather than trying to control that scenario, which actually we can't do. But we can make a choice to surround ourselves with people who uplift us, to learn from people, to grow. And so that's how you do it as an adult. You can't stop them, you can't change that, but what you can do is surround yourself with incredible people that lift you up. Thank you for your question from Facebook. Tiffany Klein says, what is your morning routine? That's a great question. So I have a whole chapter in here dedicated to routines. And if you want to know what are the habits that can improve your morning routine, all you have to do when you get the book from bn.com is head over to chapter 6, which is dedicated to routine. So my morning routine on a normal day, not on a book launch day, because today I've not followed my morning routine. I was up since 1 a.m. doing interviews across London, Canada, and the US. So usually I do not wake up at 1 a.m. I wake up at 6 a.m. and I start meditating by about 6:15, 6:30, and I meditate for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. And after completing my meditation, which includes breath work, visualization, and mantra, which are all described in the book and made really simple, I then go to the gym and I'll exercise for about 30 to 45 minutes. I then by about 8:30 to 9 every morning will actually start my work day. So before I start my work day, I've meditated, I've exercised, and I've set my intention for the day. And in this chapter, I recommend 4 great habits for your morning routine. And they come in the form of the acronym TIME, T-I-M-E. Thankfulness, inspiration, meditation, and exercise. And in the book, I break down how to make them practical in your life and how to really make them work. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for your question. Keep them coming. This is great, by the way, everyone. This is from Twillia Evans Carthen. I hope I'm saying your name right. Do you think negativity is linked to having high expectations? This is such a great question. It's such a great question because it's weird, isn't it? We say we shouldn't have high expectations, but then it's like, do we really want to live a life of low expectations? So what monks do, and what thinking like a monk is all about, is not actually focusing on expectations. It's focusing on input and process. What I mean by that is, how much effort and energy are you putting into something that you have focused so hard on making sure that it is your best foot forward, that you're happy with whatever comes of it. So you're so happy in the preparation that the result is a natural byproduct of it. So I know that when I was writing this book, or when I'm creating my videos or recording my podcast, I'm only focused on trying to do the best work I possibly can. I tried to write the best book that I possibly could. And I prepared for it. We researched, we really looked into so many traditions, built it all together. But then the result of the expectation is that I hope that everyone will like it and love it because I've worked so hard on putting the process together. So to me, it's not about having high or low expectations. It's shifting from expectation to focusing on your energy in the preparation, right? So it's switching from expectation to preparation. And so rather than have high or low expectations, have really diligent, determined, and focused preparation. I hope that answers your question. Beautiful question, and you've really inspired an answer in me, so thank you so much. Question from YouTube. How do I decide when doing my best is not enough? Perfectly timed from what I just said. Specifically, I feel overwhelmed with my workload. I want to do my best, but my employer keeps piling. So thank you for the added piece of context in terms of doing work. The first thing I'm going to say is that ask yourself what it means to do your best. Are you trying to be a perfectionist? Are you trying to over-deliver? Or are you delivering what you're asked to do and what is meeting the standards and the needs of your company or workplace? It's really important to set the right expectations with your manager. And that's actually preparation. It's not even expectation setting, it's preparation. Are you actually having that conversation and asking your team, what do you expect? What are you looking forward to from me? What do you think is going to make a difference? These are all really, really important questions. And it's important to establish those, especially in a workplace. The second part of that, if you feel overwhelmed with your workload, is to start with the thing that is the greatest priority for your workplace. If you do that, you know that you're solving the biggest and most important problem. And therefore, by clarifying that, you now don't have to feel overwhelmed by everything because you're doing the one thing that you can actually do well. And the third part of it, and I talk about this in Think Like a Monk, is the difference that psychologists talk about between multitasking and single tasking. So studies show, and I quote the study in the book, studies show that only 2% of the world can multitask. And studies say that the funny thing is when people hear that, they think that they're in that 2%. But the truth is, most of us, of course, are in that 98% that can't multitask. And now if you're in that 98%, what does that mean? It means that bringing our attention to one thing at a time, focusing on the task at hand, really stops us from feeling overwhelmed and under pressure. So I hope you'll try that out, and I hope it will make a difference. This is from Roberta from the Barnes & Noble, AG. Do you include practical skills in your book to practice the ideas presented? Absolutely. So as I was just saying, and maybe you joined slightly later, everywhere, all over the book, we have these sections called Try This. And I'm showing you because I just want you to see it. And it gives you a practical exercise and activity that you can do starting today, that you can actually start to practice so you can see the difference in your life. And there are tons. I mean, there's some really long ones. And then at the same time, there's some really simple, easy takeaways, as you can see in this one. So the book is full of practical advice, practical takeaways, and practical methods of understanding yourself. And I can't wait for you to use it like a workbook. Like you're going to have Post-it notes all over it. Okay. From Twitter, what was the most challenging aspect in writing this book? Okay, so I believe that for transformation, and this book is a book that is aimed at transformation, you need stories that inspire you, you need studies that help you believe, and you need strategies to make it practical. The biggest challenge in writing this book was bringing all of those three together in the perfect recipe, in the perfect mix, so that you could easily understand and easily practice. One of my favorite quotes from Einstein is when he said that if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough. So for me, my attempt in this book is to really synthesize and crystallize some of these concepts like purpose and passion and anxiety and pressure, so that you have the stories that inspire you to break through, you have the studies that help you believe, the science behind them, and you have the strategies to actually input it. So that was one of the biggest challenges with writing the book, because it was about bringing all of those points together and trying to make the perfect recipe, almost like making the perfect dish. So that was the biggest challenge. Thank you for that wonderful question. This is a question from Megan. What is the youngest age the book is appropriate for? I'm thinking middle school and high school students could really get a lot out as they bridge to adulthood. I absolutely agree. So a lot of the people that watch and follow my content online, I find that 16 years and up definitely find a lot of value. But I also see a lot of parents watching my videos with their 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds. And so maybe with a bit of guidance, with a bit of support, this can be a book for a younger audience as well. But I find that if you're thinking about it, I'll definitely think of someone who's had a tiny bit of life experience, so they'll be able to grasp some of the concepts. But if you're going to read it with a younger person in your life, then that is a beautiful thing, because there's so many great pieces of advice here on values, on discipline. And when I say discipline, I talk about the idea of determination towards a goal, to really develop that mindset and understand it. Thank you for all your questions, by the way. These are amazing. Keep them coming. And if you're enjoying this discussion so far, head over to bn.com and go and order a copy of Think Like a Monk right now, so that you can have it today. You can have it this week. And I'm so excited. And thank you. These questions are fantastic. So this is the question from Olivia. Did you find it difficult to consolidate all of your thoughts to narrow it down to what and how you wanted to present your wisdom? Wonderful question. So the way I like to think about it is that this is the first of many books that I plan to write. I'm really excited about the second or third one, and many, many more that I want to write. And so what I realized is that I had a very specific goal with this book. I realized that right now, some of the biggest challenges in the world are overthinking, procrastination, anxiety, stress, and pressure. And I wanted to share how a monk's mind actually knows how to navigate those scenarios. So studies on monks' brains show that monks have the happiest, calmest, most compassionate brains on the planet. And the practices that get them there are inside the book. And so I thought the monk mind is really what's necessary and needed right now, because that's our greatest challenge. So it's written for a very particular challenge, a very particular time. And of course, the wisdom inside the book is timeless because we always feel stress and pressure. But definitely it's something I know that we've all been feeling right now. So I wouldn't say that I struggled to consolidate it all because I was so clear in who I was trying to help and who I was trying to serve. But at the same time, my initial manuscript was 100,000 words, and we had to cut that right back down. The book's still pretty thick, but we had to cut it down. So I would say, yes, definitely I struggled actually. Now, completely answering the question totally differently. This is a question from Twitter. How do I calm worries and fears when real situations causing them are present in my life? I completely understand that. There are real challenges in your life and in the world. And when you talk about calming your worries and fears, one of the most important things to do is understand what you're really worried about and what you fear. In the book, I talk about the difference between the monk mind and the monkey mind. And I just want to show you that graphic, again, just to share with you how visual the book is as well. So this is a chart showing the difference between the monkey mind and the monk mind. So the monkey mind is the mind that we're all familiar with. It jumps from branch to branch, thought to thought. It's running into instant gratification and instant pleasure. But the monk mind goes to the root of the issue. And that's one of the challenges with our worries and fears. Often our worries and fears are like branches and leaves, but we're not focused on the root of where it comes from. In chapter 4, I give a beautiful principle called the why ladder to help you understand. So the first question you have to ask yourself, and you can do this with me right now, you can literally write this down with me right now and ask yourself, what's something that you fear or you're anxious about? So write it down. What is it that's something that you're fearful, worrying, or anxious about right now? And then ask yourself the question, why am I afraid of this? Why am I anxious about this? Why am I scared of this? And then your mind's going to come up with an answer. And I want you to patiently listen. And then I want you to ask yourself, why again? And then your mind's going to come up with another answer. And you're going to patiently listen again. And then you're going to ask, why again? And then your mind's going to come up with another answer. And then you're going to listen patiently. And then you're going to ask, why again? And when you do that, every time you ask why, you go to the root of that fear, that challenge, that worry. And when you understand that, you can actually deal with it rather than getting distracted and completely delusioned with the worry that you're currently dealing with. So actually turning your fear into something useful when you understand it. It's like saying that you have pain in your body, but you haven't checked yet or been diagnosed by the doctor. You can worry about it being all sorts of things. But actually, when you get diagnosed, you can test that way. And so we have to diagnose what we're really worried about ourselves or with a therapist or a coach where we can speak openly. This is a great question coming in saying, do you have any tips for dealing with anxiety during COVID? Absolutely. The first thing I'd say is don't devalue or belittle your pain. Everyone has lost something, and a lot of people have lost someone. So please, please, please do not devalue or belittle your pain or anyone else's pain. The second thing I have to say is don't judge yourself for being productive or effective or not. This was a curveball, an extreme curveball that everyone's had to deal with, and you can't expect yourself to just deal with it without having the skills. The third way for tips of dealing with the anxiety during COVID are some basic meditation practices and breathing practices. Now, breathwork is really powerful. Why? Because every emotion, every experience in our life is connected to our breath. When we're happy, we breathe differently. When we're sad, we breathe differently. When we're excited, we breathe differently. When we're struggling, we breathe differently. Our breath is connected to every emotion in our life. So if we learn to breathe effectively, when we can navigate our breath, we can better navigate life. And inside the book, in the breathwork session, I give you a whole host of activities and exercises that you can start doing today to navigate your breath and calm yourself down. Mona Lisa says, my son is autistic and having major anxiety, especially starting high school. Would this be a book to help cope? So it definitely helps with anxiety and stress because there are practices inside of it. But I would also see if there were particular types of therapy or coaching or counseling that would be right for your son that would really, really help him. But definitely from an overall perspective of working towards techniques and habits that are great for stress and anxiety, Think Like a Monk definitely dives into some of those core areas of improving your life. So this has been truly phenomenal. I want to take a couple more questions from you guys to see what other questions that you might have. And like I said, if you've just tuned in, my name is Jay Shetty, and I'm talking about my first ever book, Think Like a Monk, Train Your Mind for Peace and Purpose Every Day. The book came out yesterday. You can get it right now from bn.com if you're enjoying this session. And if you are going to go and get the book, tell me yes in the comments so that I can thank you, because I really appreciate you. It's my first book, and I appreciate all the support that I'm getting from all of you in Barnes & Noble. So I would love to take another question from you and see what it is you have. This is a great question from Roy Fritz, which is, I'm always scared of upsetting people. How can we not be so afraid of what others think? I think this is a fantastic question, because I think so many of us, and I talk about this in the book called the OEOs, the opinions, the expectations, and obligations of others keep us away from our true paths. One of the ways that we stop dealing or thinking about other people's opinions and what they think is by recognizing that we have to find how we think and feel about something. So when we're not confident about how we think or feel about something, we look to see how other people think and feel about that. And so that's where our confidence and our self-esteem takes a hit. So next time you're spending too much time worrying about what someone else thinks, deepen how you think about that, what you feel about that. That's the part that you want to focus on. That's the part that you want to give energy to. That's the part that you want to give your time to. It's a beautiful, beautiful question. Tiffany says, yes, I ordered the book and it will be here this week. Can't wait. Thank you for taking the time to share with us tonight. Thank you so much, Tiffany. I really, really appreciate that. Maria says, yes, can't wait to start reading and putting this into practice. Heather says, mine is already shipped to me. Yes, that's awesome. I really, really appreciate that. Jenna says, received mine today. Can't wait to start reading it tonight. I can't wait to hear what you have to think of it. Jenna, that would mean so much to me. I really, really appreciate that. This is awesome. Thank you so much for all the positivity that's flying in. And I'm glad you're thinking that the awesome response and that the answers make sense. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so, so much. And I want to thank you all for listening to me sharing my insights from my first ever book, Think Like a Monk. I'm grateful to all of you for tuning in live this evening or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And I really, really hope you're going to go grab a copy of my first ever book and check it out at bn.com. And if you already have a book, please, please, please leave a review. It would mean the world to me if you're enjoying the book that you leave a review. Thank you so much, and really grateful to connect with you all today and appreciate